Okay, so you can see my screen, right?
Right.
Okay. Okay, so let's start the lecture. Today we're going to get a quick overview on one of the most important web development tools available, and that is Chrome DevTools. Now, all browsers have their own set of developer tools, and a lot of the stuff we'll be doing here today you can do in other browsers as well, but certainly not all of it. What you use to browse web pages and so on doesn't really matter, but for development, I'd suggest using a Chromium-based browser, which is Chrome, of course, and the latest MS Edge. So MS Edge is available on all modern Windows 10 OSs, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and it's transitioned to Chromium recently, so it's a lot better now. Chrome DevTools is very powerful. There's a lot of real advanced stuff that you can do, especially when it comes to debugging JavaScript. But I'm not going to get into the real advanced tasks in this lecture because I don't want to focus too much on pieces of code rather than DevTools themselves. And also, I want this to be a high-level overview to the most common everyday tools. And you can always dive deeper into the specific functions on your own. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. This lecture won't have any slides. We will do a live session. And I don't recommend trying to follow along unless you have two screens, as not to get yourselves confused, because you can always just rewatch this lecture at your own pace after it ends. This shouldn't be a long lecture because this is a pretty narrow topic. Okay, so first things first, how do we open up Chrome DevTools? So inside of Chrome, the easiest, in my mind, way to open the DevTools is by pushing F12 on your keyboard. As you can see, Web Tools just pops out here. You can also use Control-Shift-I to open up and close it up. On Mac, it's Command-Shift-I. And of course, you can always do the slow way, push the three buttons here, then go to More Tools and click Developer Tools. Okay, so what you see here on the right, oh, just one more question. Can you see the text or should I zoom in a bit?
It's okay.
It's okay. Okay. Okay, so what you see here on the right is the Chrome Developer Tools. You can see tabs up here, which is Elements, Console. We're going to cover Elements, Console, Sources, and Network. There are a lot more here, as you can see. We have performance memory, but these are pretty advanced, and I don't think there's a lot of sense studying those today. There's even more if you like under the three buttons here and more tools. You see there's a lot more right here. We can also change the place where this DevTools window is located. So we push the three buttons here and the dock side. So we can choose to dock it on the left right here. We can choose to dock it to the bottom, which I prefer, but I think docking it to the right makes most sense because it's the most visible. And of course, you can pop it out. I don't know if you can see it, but it acts as a whole separate window if you pop it out. So I'm just gonna keep it docked to the right. Okay, so I guess we can start with the Elements tab. I think most of you have used it. If you were inspecting the cross-check web pages, you can see that in the Elements tab, you basically have the whole source of the document. As you can see, it has HTML, the head, the body, the script tags, and so on. This is, sorry, someone's trying to say something. Maybe a mistake. Okay, so this is basically the HTML source of the current page, as we can see right here. We'll just dive in a bit deeper. We have the header, the main, and so on. So hovering over elements highlights them on the web page. As you can see, I'm hovering over the header right now, and it's being highlighted on the left with the blue and the green colors. What these colors represent, I will explain later. But as you can see, it not only highlights the element, but it also pops out a little dialog, as you can say, at the bottom, which has the selector for the element and its width and height. Its width is 1200 pixels and its height is 118 pixels. So any questions before we continue? You can just type it in the chat if you have any questions. I can see them. So, okay, let's move on then. So let's talk about basic functionalities of this Elements tab. You can do live editing here. Let's try that. Let's select the hero element. As we can see this H1 here. So what we can do is basically change the inner text by double clicking on it and just writing anything. Press enter and you see it reflects on the site. Of course, these changes are only local to your computer. You did not just change MDN. It's just your copy on your local machine. So yeah, undoing this change now. We can also right click on an element and edit as HTML. So we have more control of what we edit. We can change the H1 to be an H2, for example. So now it's no longer an H1. It got a bit smaller. I don't know if you noticed it, but it's pretty visible. We can also hide elements by pushing right click and selecting hide element. It's gone now. And you can see the black indicator that the element is hidden. We can show it again. And we can also not only hide but delete elements by pushing delete on your keyboard. There's not much difference between hidden and deleted elements, but delete elements are actually gone from the DOM and they no longer take up space. So I don't want that. I want to return the element now. We can also do drag and drop. Basically, just take the element and drag it wherever you want to the top of the page. It's pretty simple. We can also copy paste elements. C Control C Control V, just like in Word, anything. So now we have 4 different instances of this H1. So okay. What else is you can also, of course, edit attributes. Like we have a class hero content here. We double click it. We can just change it to whatever. I don't know what classes are here, but let's just change it to hero. And it just gets messed up because it was not supposed to be hero. So let's just return to hero content. I think it was, yeah. Or of course we can just edit as HTML and change everything here. So, but it's a bit more complex to view, in my opinion. What else? Basically, for situations where you see an element in the Elements tab, but you don't see it on the left side because it's way at the bottom of the page since it's a footer, you can just right click on it and select scroll into view. And the web page scrolls where the footer is located. Now we can see it right here. It's highlighted for us. And the last functionality is when you push Control F, you can initiate a find. So let's try resources. Yeah, you see it highlights us whatever we are searching for. So we can see the H1 again, resources for developers. We can also look for all the ULs. We can see there's 18 here on the page. We just scroll through them. And we can just cancel the search, of course. Okay, so we can select elements from the Elements tab, but what if we want to do the opposite? What if we want to select elements from the web page itself? There's a tool for that as well. It's called the inspector. So you activate the inspector by clicking on it right here or just pushing Control-Shift-C. As you can see, it's blue now, so we can now use our mouse to select any element we want. For example, if I wanted to select the same H1, I just click on it and it's getting highlighted here on the Elements tab. I can edit it again. It's pretty simple. There's also a cool thing here. I don't know if some of you used it yet, but it should be useful for the yellow task, which you are cross-checking right now. It's the toggle device toolbar. I will need to minimize this a bit. So you just click on it right here, or Control-Shift-M, whatever you prefer, and you open up the responsive view right here. So what you can do here is basically what this does, I mean, is it imitates different screen sizes. So at the top here, we can see the width of our screen and the height. This is the zoom level, so it's not really important right now. But it's just, you know, if the screen doesn't fit on your screen, you can just adjust the zoom. So we have presets here, right where the gray bars are. So small mobiles, which have a width of 320 pixels by default. I think it's a standard. We just click on it and the screen gets automatically shrunk to 330 width. So now we can see how this web page looks on really small mobile devices. We can, of course, choose the mobile M, mobile large, tablets, laptops, and I think there's one more. Let me just zoom out. Yeah, there's 4K, of course. So we can just stick to tablet for now. And of course, you can choose presets right here. When it says responsive, you can just choose actual devices. They're a bit outdated, like Galaxy S5 and Moto G4. They're pretty old phones, and iPhone 5. But you can, of course, add your own with the edit. There's plenty of devices here, but I'm not going to get into it. And of course, you can choose the device, let's say Galaxy S5, and it just selects the width and the height. So you basically can imagine how it looks like. It's not always accurate, but it's a good point to start checking for bugs. If you choose responsive, you have the ability to change the width to whatever you want and the height. So for example, if you're checking work for responsiveness, you just start from 360 and just go slowly and look if anything breaks. Since this is MDN, I'm not sure if anything's going to break here. So yeah, that's how you basically check a website for responsiveness. And of course, you can input values here by hand. You can just 360 and enter, and it's just, you know, just goes there. Any questions before we move on? Okay, so most of the people, well, 2 people said no, so. Okay, so let's move on to the screen below. This is basically the CSS screen. I'm not sure what it's officially called. Wait, let me just. Let me zoom in a bit. Yeah, I think it's like this is better. So the screen below right here, this is what I call the style sheet or the CSS sheet. It basically shows every style applied to an element. So for example, if we select the H1 right here, wait just a moment, zoom out. We can see what styles are applied to the element. Like for example, the H1 of hero content class has a background color of almost black. It has a text color of white, font weight, a margin, and text align of center. And what is really cool about this is that we can also change these values live. Like for example, we can change the color by clicking on this square right here. It opens up a color picker, so we can just choose any color. Basically, let's go with red. Change the background color to, I don't know, blue. Doesn't really look good, but you get the idea that you can just basically choose any color you want. What else is cool? There's a color picker which you can activate by clicking this little icon here, and you can basically select a color from the website itself. So let's try selecting, I don't know, this blue one, and it instantly just converts the color to the blue. To see the result, I'm going to click on something black, and right here, it just turns black. So that's one functionality of this styles tab. What else? We have the classes button here. This is a bad example because this H1 doesn't have a class, but let's select, I don't know, the div maybe. Or maybe, no, let's find something which has multiple classes. Would be a bit better. Yeah, okay, this has multiple classes. So clicking on this classes button reveals the elements activated classes. This element, as you can see here, has page wrapper and standard page applied to it. So right here, we can see that these classes are active. We can turn them off. You're not really seeing any effect. Okay, let's find a better example. Why are these all single classes? It's pretty weird. Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna show you. We have a hero content class right here, and we just toggle it, and it's no longer there, and everything is messed up. But if we toggle it again, it goes back to normal. We can, of course, add new classes. Let's find some class we can use. So let's try header search. Okay, for this H1 element, let's add a class header search. So this doesn't really do anything, but we can see that it's activated right here because it has the header search, and it's crossed out because that means that something is overriding this style sheet. Let's find a background color. Yeah, hero content H1 is overriding this background color from header search. So that means it's crossed out and it's no longer active. If we remove this class, then white will be activated because there is no longer a background color for it to override. This is pretty much a simple example of how you can add classes to an element easily. You can do the same by just editing as HTML and just writing class equals header search like this. It's the same effect, but I think this is a bit easier. You can also, using this, let me just, sorry. Using this elements console, you can select, I guess, a button, and you can add various hover effects. I'm not sure which one of you guys have covered which one of these, but I know that you have covered hover. So we can add a hover effect, and as you can see, it stays hovered like this. If I would hover my mouse, it would do the same effect. And if I would click hover, it activates the hover effects defined. So it gets an underline right here. And you can easily test elements, how are they behaving with various effects applied to them, like hover, active, focus, target. I don't know which one of you have covered, but you get the idea. What else we can find here? Let's see. Okay, these are all from style. They don't really matter. Okay, so I'll show the sources later, I guess, because there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing here to watch. I would say, oh, one more thing you can do is if you select images, like for example, background with an image, you have done that already, I know. And you get URL right here. You can just control. Oh, wait, something's wrong. Yeah, you can just open a new tab with the right click, and you can download the image, do whatever you want with it. But that's how you extract files from from a web page. Files, I mean, which are public. Well, most of them are. What else here? Of course, you can also modify the applied styles the same way as you modify classes by pushing these buttons. We can remove the background right here, so the dino head just disappears. We can also, as I mentioned before, remove the color styling so it gets back to the default black. We can change the margin to be a little lower, so 20. We can use the mouse wheel for precision. As you can see on the left, I'm scrolling up and the margin is getting bigger. So yeah, basically you can change any property here. You can add properties by clicking, well, I'm not sure where exactly to click, but I always click on the right of the last property and the new input opens up. So let's just say I want to change the color to violet. And it overrides the thing right here. It's turned violet. So let's delete this for now. What else? There. I just found the button I was looking for my whole life. It's right here. Oh no, it's not that button. Never mind. You can also push the plus here, which has the new style rules. It basically, once you click it, it tries to insert a selector that's specific for the element that's selected. So it's an H1 with a class of header search, and it will always find the element. And you can add some styles here, of course. We can add, I don't know, background of red, and it changes again. And again, this is only local. We are not changing anything on the MDN site. It's only for the local copy. On the bottom of this styles, we can see the box model. I think you have touched the box model on one of the lectures and you know what it is. Let me try to find a better example. Okay, whatever, this will do. So basically the blue box right here is the width and the height of the whole element. The green bars are the padding. You can see it has the 48 pixels on the sides, 125 on top, 72 on bottom. So basically this shows the calculated box model. You can select initial pieces of it. Let me just add a margin to this element. Margin of 24. We add a border as well. Border 1px solid, yellow, I guess 5 pixels, so you see it. Okay, so now I think we have a full box model. Oh wait, there's position as well, so we can do position. No, not position, but top, 50 pixels. Position relative. Yeah, it works. So now we have the full box model. The blue color is the width and the height of the element. The green color is the padding. And as I'm going, you can see that on the left side, it's actually highlighting the padding as well. Then we have the border, 5 pixels each, right here. Then the margin, the orange one, and position. This shows that it has been moved from the top by 59 pixels and by negative 59 from the bottom right here, because I don't know if you noticed it, but I did provide a top value right here. Okay, so yeah, this is pretty useful when you're debugging things because you can see what each element takes up. There's also one more important thing here, the computed tab. This shows all of the styles applied to the element in one simple list. So as you can see, the background color, which we provided, the color of the text, the background image. Let's choose a smaller element, this H1, so we know. Okay, so the same background color, display, font family. We see basically every applied property of the element. And if we want to know where it's coming from, for example, where was the height defined? We can just push this arrow right here, and we can see that this selector, header search for min width of 47 EMs, has declared that the element should have a height of 40 pixels coming from here. Or for example, we want to know why is the background color red? This doesn't look right. So I just click on it. And I see that something here has someone here has changed the background to red, which I don't like. So I just remove it, and here it's white again. So that's good. So that's a tool that you will use basically every day, I think, because it's pretty useful. So I suggest you play around with the styles, the computed, and the elements here. Try the other things it can do. I mean, I just showed you the most basic and most common operations you can do with it. Of course, there's also the filter here, the same as in the Elements tab. We can do the H1s, all of the H1s. We can do for search for the class header search. Yeah, we can see all of the style for the header search, and so on. I'm thinking, is there anything else I missed? I guess one small trick. You can go to the settings tab here. This window will open up, and you just scroll down to the elements and select show rulers. It's not enabled by default, if I'm not wrong. What this does is basically it adds rulers. I don't know if you can see it, but it adds these small lines and the pixels on the top of the web page for you to measure elements. I'm not sure if it's really visible. Well, I hope you see it, but you can try it at home and you will definitely see it on your screen. So any questions, any concerns? It is what are you seeing the rulers or? Useful extensions for Chrome browser. Well, actually, I don't really use a lot of extensions, but one extension I use is the color picker. Basically, it does what it says. You just open it up and you select anything. Oh wait, I just need to turn off the inspector. You select anything and it just shows the color of it. So let's say we just select this blue background. It gets copied to the clipboard and I can instantly just copy here, and you see it changed color. And one more thing, let me just page ruler. Let me just remember how it works. P? No, it's not. Let's just start it. Yeah, what this does is basically you select parts of the screen and it just shows its width, height, and left top, whatever at the top right here. You can measure things pretty easily. Like, for example, if I wanted to know what height this header is, I can just measure it up and it's pretty accurate. So it's called Page Ruler Redux if you want, but I'm not sure if you really need this. I don't really use extensions. You can search it up on Google. I'm not sure what to say here. Do we need to know how to use network performance or memory? To be honest, I never used network. Oh, sorry, not network, but memory. Network we will cover today, so don't worry. And performance is pretty useful. I have used it, but it's really complex, and it would take me, I don't know, the whole day to pretty much explain how it works. So there are pretty good free tutorials from Google team themselves how to use the performance tab. It is useful if you know how to use it and you know how to debug JavaScript, but just for demonstration reasons, I don't know, I can just show it to you, but like we just click random things here and stop. There's nothing really here because I don't think any JavaScript was executed here. Wait a second. It's really zoomed up. Yeah, only one piece of JavaScript was called, so it this site is not really good for performance measuring, so I'm not gonna dive into it. As I said, it's pretty complex, so you're better off just viewing it on your own. Okay, so do we have, I'm using Font Ninja to check the font on the page. Yeah, that's pretty useful. Okay, so no more questions. I guess we can move on to the console tab. So this is basically a place to execute JavaScript on the website environment. You can write any JavaScript expression like, I don't know, 2 plus 2, and it just returns the value, of course, it's 4. So basically, this is the place where you can write any valid JavaScript here. For example, let some var equals, I don't know, 1, 2, 3. This if you find undefined here, it's because this second line is always the return value of the statement above. Since this doesn't have any return value, it returns undefined. Since this does have a return value, it returns 4. So that's just something you should know. Okay, so we have now declared let some variable, which is equal to 1, 2, 3, and we can basically just call it right here, and we'll return 1, 2, 3. We can also do an expression with it, like sum bar plus 4, 5, 6, and we will get the string 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can also do length, whatever. Slice, so basically any operation you want. Okay, it returns 2. Basically any valid JavaScript will do, but what is more fun that you can actually interact with the browser. I'm not sure if you know select. Oh no, you're not familiar with selectors. You're gonna touch them on, I think, the next lectures. But I will show you a simple example. So document query selector. Sorry. Query selector. We can select the same H1 with the hero, I think, content it was. No, it's not that. So let's see what it is. No, it's with the dash. Why is it not finding it? Oh, because it's not. Okay, understood. It's not the H1 with the hero content. Okay, the first element. I should select it. And you see it returns H1. I know you don't, not all of you know what this does, but basically what is fun with the console is that you can interact with the web page on the left where you have opened up the console. For this example, I have queried an H1 from the site, and it has returned the H1, which we have modified. And if I double click on it, it should have. You have to right click on it and click on Reveal an Elements panel, and it will also open up the Elements panel again, as we have just done with the H1 selected. What else is cool? Basically, if we select one element, for example, let's try a different element now, the search bar. Right here, the input, you can see it. If we go to the console and type $0, we get the last element we have selected with the inspector, which is, as you can see, the input. If we do the $1, we get the element we have selected previously, we have selected this hero div. And as you can guess, if we do $2, we get the even earliest element, element, which was the H1. So this is just a cool trick, I guess. It's not really useful, but I don't know. If you guys want, you can use it. It still exists, and it's pretty cool, I guess. We can of course use JavaScript to like change the style. Let's try. You can use JavaScript, of course, to modify things on the website. Again, the same as we did with the Elements tab. We just use JavaScript now. So we have selected the H1 element with the $2. Its style property and its color property. We just change it to red, whatever we want, basically. You're gonna learn these in the next lectures, but I'm just showing you a quick example of the power of the console. Basically, it's used for debugging, testing, or anything out of your application. You input things into the console by using console log. I will open up a small website I just started right here. I'm not sure if you can see my Visual Studio Code now. Can you please tell me if you can see Visual Studio Code now, or you see only Chrome? Oh, can't. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's try this. No. Okay, I have a simple site. You can just ignore everything here except for the script tag, which has JavaScript in here. As you can see, console.log. Now, what console.log does, console is an object, log is the property, and log itself is a function which you can pass a string as a parameter. And what this line will do is basically print hello to the console. Is that clear, or should I explain further? Because this is a pretty simple example. Yeah, so I was just demonstrating how text ends up in the console. Let me just update the code quickly with a few more lines. You will see the results. Okay. So now we have not sure why this is white, but never mind. We added 3 new lines with 3 different methods: console.warn, console.info, which for some reason I expected it to be blue, but I think something changed now and it's no longer blue, and console.error. So I think some of you may have seen these errors already. They often just come as when you just basically encounter an error in your JavaScript. It turns a scary red console message. And of course, there's warn, which is the yellow one. These are not really real examples, but I'm just showing you how they look like, because you will encounter warnings and errors in your development career 100%, at least once. So, okay, so I can show you how console error really works. Let me just update the code again. Let's say, yeah, this should throw an error. Let's see. Yeah, so what I did was write up console log, and I'm trying to console log out some var. Some var is not defined, That's why the console throws us an error. Uncaught reference error somewhere is not defined at index.html53. If we click on it, it shows us the spot where the error originated from. Right here also. We can also return the errors here. As we can see, every single console has a what's it called, source, I guess. So you can click on it and see where the console log came from. Yeah, right here it's highlighted. So that's pretty useful as well, I think. What else? I guess this is pretty much. Oh, one more thing. If we refresh the page now. Wait, so it's set here. That's weird. For some reason it's not clearing. Okay, let's try this. If we refresh the page, our console gets wiped out. So I can just show that again. We have 2 + 2 = 4. We refresh the page and the console gets wiped. If we don't want that, we can push the console settings here, select preserve log. There's plenty of other options here, but I'm not really sure. I never use them. So what preserve log does is when we refresh the page, as you guessed it, it doesn't wipe the console. So it's useful in some situations and it's pretty annoying in other situations. So if you want to clear the console manually, you just click clear console right here, the button, or Control L. So yeah. What else? There's of course the filter as usual. You just filter the errors. The get by string, So any questions on this? There's not really much to the console, so let's just move on, I think. Let's move on to the sources tab. This will also be quite short. I've already introduced it. I'm using my simple site here, so it's not really messy. So the sources tab, it's basically the hosted static files of the website. Most of the times, these are production-ready, minified, and unreadable code files. But since I'm using my own simple website here, it's pretty simple and it's not minified. It's not changed. So on the left side, we can see the files that are public to us, the index.html, which we see in the Elements tab. It's the same. The JavaScript file, which I will go on later, and the styles, which contains all the styles. It's pretty much it. You can also, I think, yeah, you can also edit things through here. You can, of course, change these to get rid of the error. Oh, I don't think. Oh, for some reason you can't edit the HTML file. I didn't even know that. Okay. I think you can, yeah, I think you can modify everything else. The HTML file should be available, yeah, to edit through here. Wait, it should give us an error. Yeah, but since you refresh it, it clears every edit you did because it's still somewhere after you refresh it, so it doesn't fix our error, but it doesn't matter. So yeah, sources basically just show you which files are public to you on a site. And if you click on, for example, I didn't show you this because MDN didn't let me. Let's say we select the H1 and we see that it has a style of color red. And on the right side, we see where it's coming from. So we just click on it and we can see that it's inside the style CSS. The style CSS, of course, contains only one 3 lines, so it's pretty simple to see, but I will show you on MDN later that it's pretty useful. I don't think there's anything else on the source tab. Well, of course, there's debugging, but this is way out of scope for this lecture because it's also complex. But it is pretty powerful, but you will have to watch debugging on your own, unfortunately. So if we don't have any questions, let's move on to the last tab. I'll wait a few seconds. Yeah, okay, so the network tab. This is, to my mind, the second most important tab for real-life production development because it basically shows every request sent and the response received from the server. You have not really gone into HTTP requests yet, but I think you can understand that the internet is based on these requests. You just by inputting, wait, where's my mouse? Oh, there it is. Just by inputting development Mozilla org and pressing enter, you are actually requesting a lot of file from the server, as you can see here. So basically what network does is shows you all the requests sent and received, as I mentioned. So this has a lot of functions, and I will try to cover the most important ones. Right here, you can see the filters for the request types. Right now, it's the all selected, but you can also select XHR requests, the GS files only. So you can see we have the main JS file, and we can actually see the contents of it. It's pretty minified, so it's pretty, minified and hard to read. So we have the CSS files, of course. We can see the source. Maybe I'm going a bit too fast. So on the left, you see the requests. And when you click on it, it opens up what's it called? An inspection table, I guess, which has even more tabs. These are the header tabs. I will just quickly go through it. The request URL, where the request was sent, the request method, which you will learn later on in the course, status code, and so on and so on. What is the most important here is the preview tab, which basically just shows you the file contents, which is a CSS file, so you can just go on and read through it. This is, I think, the CSS file for the whole site. So of course, images right here, we see the dino head, which is displayed here, same dino head, these icons, and so on. Media is empty, fonts, can't really watch them. And these others are pretty specific, so I'm not gonna cover them. Let's go back to the YAL. I will show you the details of every request. So basically, I will cover every column. So this is the name of the file or the path of the request. As you can see, this is the status of the response. 200 is okay. This is the type of file or request sent. So as we previously clicked XHRs, the GS files of TypeScript, the CSS type style sheet, and so on. I think you get the idea. And these others, yeah, there's size for each of the file and request. You can see 1.5 kilobytes, 388 bytes, the time it took for the request to complete, and the waterfall. Let me just, yeah, if you hover on the waterfall, it shows you in detail the timing of the request. So basically it tells you how much time everything took, the queuing, the connection start, it has been stalled for 0.3 milliseconds. Then the request sent in 1 millisecond. It was waiting for the server for 37 milliseconds, and it took 0.6 milliseconds to download the content. in all, it took 39 milliseconds to complete that request, which I have shown here. I will show you quickly. I have prepared. I think XHR is the most important thing you will ever need because it's really rare to monitor anything else. Well, at least on my experience, I almost always just click XHR. And for example, let's send a basic request by clicking this button, and we can see we have sent a request to the path JSON placeholder.typeco.com, 2 do's and 1. So its name is 1. Type is fetch, since it was an HTTP request. It has a size of 833 bytes. It took 263 milliseconds. And we can see by pushing on it, we can see the details. As I mentioned before, the headers, all of the request headers, the URL, the preview of the response. The preview is the response always. Don't remember that. I mean, remember that. So it basically returned us an object, which we can just see here. This is the raw response. And that's basically it. I can just show you what this button does by clicking on main. It basically just fetches it from the URL I just mentioned and console logs the response, which we can see here. Response, we click on it and we see everything basically. So the body, for example, it's not gonna show me. Yeah, because you need to parse it, so it's not gonna show me, but it showed me in the network tab, so it doesn't really matter. One more trick you guys should definitely know is the throttling. This helps check websites' performance on slow devices. Since most of you have modern internet and fast connections, sometimes you need to test things on slower connections. So that's where throttling comes in. You just basically select this tab here. It's in the network tab in the no throttling. You click on it. And there's presets here, of course, fast 3G network, slow 3G, offline, and you can add your own, of course. I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to demonstrate fast 3G, for example. This took 263 milliseconds without throttling. So let's try it now. Oh, wow, it took almost 3 times as long. We will select slow 3G now and check it again. Okay, so now it takes 2 seconds. So you might reconsider your app's solutions when you try it on slower internet, because some people still use 3G internet, even 2G, I think, in very rural regions. So don't forget that. If you ever need to test something on a slower connection, you just click this. And this also helps as a trick if something is happening really fast and you want to see what is happening. You just activate slow internet, as I like to call, and you can just see how the requests are going because they're really slow, as you saw, from 200 milliseconds to 2 seconds, basically, just by selecting slow 3G. And of course, there's preserve log. It does the same thing as the console one does. If I refresh the page now, it gets wiped out. But if I click preserve log, do some requests, refresh, they're all here. So I think that is it. If you have any more questions for the network, feel free to go and ask them right now. I will show a few tricks at the end, but yeah, we are basically done for this lesson. So any questions? Okay. Seems like everything is clear. Let me just show you a few more tricks. You can use Control-Shift-P to open up the command palette, which is it's pretty handy if you get used to it, but it's not really necessary to learn it. But it contains a lot of commands. For example, I can just go and say show console, press enter, and it will just open up the console. What this does, what I like about it is that I don't need to use my mouse if I want to do something, which is really nice for me. Let's say there's also one feature that you guys might not know is dark mode. Switch to dark theme, for example. I just typed in dark and I don't need to worry about anything. I just switch to dark theme, reload DevTools, and there we go, dark theme. It's pretty cool. So yeah, we can just switch to light theme, reload, slide again. One more thing. Wait, let me. One more cool thing about console is that I forgot to mention that you can actually right click on an element, not all elements of course, but for example, if I'm console logging an object, a string, anything, a variable, for example, because this is basically console logging the response from this URL. So this is an object right here, and I right click on it and I push store object as global variable. It now becomes temp1 in my console and I can do anything I want with it. I can access the body right here. I can access, what else? What is there? I guess status text. Oh, there is no status text. Okay, status 200. So basically, this is a pretty simple example, but yeah, you can store variables here if you want. If you're like debugging your application, you want to console something out, and then you just add it to your local as a local variable, and you can manipulate however you want it. And that's pretty useful, I think. Oh, and one more thing, I'll show you how to minify things. As you can see, this is the CSS for the MDN. It's minified. As you can see, it's just basically crammed into one line. It's really long. It's huge right here. You can see the scroll bar. But if I want to read it as a human being, because the computer doesn't care that it's ugly, it can read it pretty nice. If you want to read, you just click the button right here. It's on the bottom, format. You click it and voila, it's readable again. It's the same file, only formatted. And I think that will conclude the tricks. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And if you don't, then we can say our goodbyes. And I will write the hotkeys after the lesson. Yeah, dark mode, you just Control-Shift-P to open up the command palette. This is one of the most important hotkeys, Control-Shift-P. Just type in dark, switch to dark theme, enter, and that's it. You have dark theme. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I want to thank you all for coming and see you later.